folks, welcome back to My Kitten Reads. I'm Eleanor and this is my April wrap up. April was a little bit of an odd month this time round. I read everything, which is 11 things, in the first half of the month. A lot of which was with Dewey's 24-hour readathon. The reason I didn't read or finish anything, at least in the second half of the month, was because I sort of very quietly participated in the Tome Topple Readathon. By quietly, I started a book over 500 pages, in fact over 800 pages. I didn't quite I got over halfway in the 2-week period, and I tweeted about it a little bit, but didn't even get up to the 500 page mark because I was actually very busy in that last week of April, I'm afraid. But yes, so I'm still trying to work my way through that book, and I want to finish that book, which is Anna Karenina, before I start anything else. So hopefully you'll hear about it in my May wrap up. But I did read an awful lot in the first half of April. So the first thing on my pile was I finished listening to the full-cast audiobook of Tamora Pierce's The Emperor Mage. This is the third book in the Immortals Quartet about Dane. So in this one, she and her friends have gone to Carthage, which is the country that lives on the other side of the ocean, and has been they know that the Emperor Mage of Carthage is behind the troubles they've been having in the previous 2 books, but he denies it, and so they're going for peace talks. And Dane has been invited despite being a commoner because she has healing magic with birds, with animals, and the Emperor has birds that are sick. So she's gone as a gesture of goodwill. Shenanigans ensue involving gods and magic and dinosaur skeletons. Yeah, you heard me right. Dinosaur skeletons. So this was a reread for me. The only thing that I was a bit creeped out by that I wasn't as a kid was there's a few bits towards the end where Dane is unconscious and the Emperor is watching her while she's unconscious, and it's a little bit creepy because he's a grown man in his 30s-ish, and she's, what, 14, 15, something like that. So yeah, tiny bit creepy, but it was still a really good book. So it was great to reread that again. Then, during the readathon, I finally got around to finishing Tempests and Slaughter by Tamora Pierce, which is her newest book. And in this book, it's the backstory of Numair, who's a character from the Immortals Quartet, when he was still known as Aram Draper and when he was studying at the Royal Carthage University, studying magic, with Ozorn as one of his best friends, which that's one of the reasons it took me quite a while to get through it originally, because that was weird. Teenage Ozorn, who wasn't evil yet. It took some getting used to. It was an interesting book. Probably not my favourite of Tamora Pierce's books. It was very much, there wasn't a lot of overarching plot, I didn't find. There was a little bit, but it was mostly following Aram, Ozorn and Varys around as they studied magic. So it was basically a school story with magic. It was also a little bit awkward because Tamora Pierce has always been very blunt about the facts of life, and that was great when I was reading the Alana series and I was a teenager and so I was explaining female puberty to me. As an adult, reading about a teenage boy going through puberty, a little bit more awkward. But, you know, she hasn't actually changed her style. She's still blunt about it, which is great. I'm sure it's great, but awkward for an adult woman to read. But yes, that was Tempests and Slaughter by Tamora Pierce. So I also read The Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill. This is a little graphic novel that came in one of my Our Crate subscription boxes, and it's utterly adorable. It's literally about tea dragons. Little tiny dragons that grow tea leaves of various types out of their heads. And when you make tea from said tea leaves, it gives you sort of visions of people's memories. The person who made the tea's memories. So it's fascinating, it's diverse, it's full of magical people, and yeah, it's kind of absolutely adorable, and I love it, and I'm really hoping there's going to be another volume in this universe out. I believe there is going to be, because tea dragons, they're They're really cute. I also read Pride by Ibi Zoboi. This is also one of my Arkwright books. So continuing on the theme of my challenge this year is to actually read my Arkwright books. Yeah, this is a YA remix of Pride and Prejudice in suburban New York, with black Hispanic Benito's sisters, and then these two boys move in over the road, and so it's about love and gentrification and looking after your neighborhood and wanting to get wanting to keep that sense of community. And yeah, it's again really cute. It's actually quite short and easy to read, and I really enjoyed it. It's also got poetry in it because our main character is a poet, so her poetry is often at the end of chapters. So yeah, this was really cute. I really enjoyed Pride. I also read Ms. Marvel Volume 8, Mecca, by G. Willow Wilson. So in this thing, Ms. Marvel starts to see some consequences for the fact that she's a superhero in New Jersey, and she starts to realise that not everybody is happy about having a superhero in New Jersey. She also feels really awkward in the last issue in this, when the teenage superhero she met in Pakistan comes to visit. And so it ends, basically with her going, okay, there's someone else here, it's time for me to take a break. So, there's some really uncomfortable political stuff in here, like the moment where her brother gets stopped in the street by this new squad of, like, law enforcement people, and taken away just because of, what he looks like, and the fact that they think he might have powers, which he doesn't. But yeah, so that was Volume 8 of Ms. Marvel, which continues to be a fantastic exploration of both modern life and modern politics, and what it takes to be a superhero, particularly when you're a teenager. I also read From Twinkle with Love by Sandhya Menon. This is her second book, I believe. She originally wrote When Dimple Met Rishi, which I haven't read, but this is about a girl who is Indian and American, and she wants to be a film Twinkle. She wants to be a film director, and so she gets this opportunity when someone suggests she should direct a film for the festival that the school is having, and she's got this crush on this guy who's like the school sports star, and it turns out his twin brother has a crush on her, maybe, possibly, and she starts falling for him, but she still likes his brother, and it's complicated, and then all this stuff happens. I kind of skimmed a bit in the middle because it got a bit too much teenage drama for me, but the end, when Twinkle has come to a bunch of realizations of how she's been behaving recently and what kind of person she wants to be, the end is really sweet. So I really enjoyed the end. But yeah, it was again quite a quick read once I got through it, and that's From Twinkle with Love by Sandhya Menon, one of the rare contemporary books that I read. And so this is another Arkwright one. So this is also going to that challenge, and both Pride and this one are written by authors of colour, which again, finally starting to make a little bit of progress on my challenges this year, since I've apparently been avoiding them. In terms of non-fiction, I read Chicks Dig Time Lords, a celebration of Doctor Who by the women who love it, edited by Lynne M. Thomas and Tara O'Shea. This is a Hugo Award-winning book for Best Related Work in 2011. This was a reread for me. I tabbed it all up. As you can see, this is part of my reread project, which, again, challenge for this year. So yeah, I mean, it's great. That's why I was rereading it. It's a little bit out of date, perhaps, because it was published in 2010 and Doctor Who's moved on since then. But there's still some really amazing stories about what Doctor Who means to a lot of women. So, yeah, that was a fun read. I also read the audiobook for Realms of the Gods by Tamora Pierce, which is the final book in the Immortals Quartet. Yeah, so this one, basically, there's now a war on. And Dane and Ymir get stuck in the realms of the gods, and they have to try and make their way home while trying to figure out why this war is happening. Again, as an adult reader, as much as I love this book so much, the romance in it towards the end, a little bit uncomfortable. 16-year-old and her 30-odd-year-old teacher. Not something that would be acceptable these days. It is a medieval society, so it's a bit more acceptable, and they don't do anything other than kiss, so, you know, it's not too bad. But it's just something I'm more aware of these days. That age difference is, you know, not necessarily problematic, because I know people who have similar age differences in the real world, and they're fine. They're like adults, they're great. But she's also 16 and he's her teacher. So there's a power dynamic. But also the book is aware of the power dynamic, because Ymir has been keeping his feelings secret because he doesn't want her to have to deal with rumours and all that kind of stuff, because he's so much older than her. And so he's aware that there's a power imbalance, and it's her that pushes for the relationship when he's uncertain. So yeah, that helps. But yes, so that's Realms of the Gods by Tamora Pierce. Then I kept on my reading track, I'm afraid, and more audiobook as well. So I listened to the audiobook of The 13 Problems by Agatha Christie. It's one of my favourite Agatha Christie books. It's actually a series of 13 short stories. Basically, it starts with Miss Marple. It's Miss Marple. Her nephew is visiting, and they're having dinner with a whole bunch of people who all have various different experiences of crime. There's an artist, there's a former head of Scotland Yard, he's a writer, there's a lawyer, there's a priest, and there's a doctor. And as fun after dinner, they form this little club, and each has to give a problem where they know the solution, but they have to, a crime, the rest of the group has to try and solve it. And Miss Marple wins every single time. And then there's another dinner party later on where they do this again with a whole bunch of people. And again, Miss Marple is always right on the spot. She knows exactly what the truth is. And then there's the final story where Sir Henry Clithering, the former head of Scotland Yard, is visiting, and there is a death in the village, and it's a murder. Everyone's thinking it's one person. Miss Marple says, actually, it's another person. If I give the name on the piece of paper, will you interest yourself so that there's no miscarriage of justice? And of course, she's right. So I love this. I don't know really why, but I just love this book. It's great. So I listened to the audio of that. I also finished my reread of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. So all know this is my favourite book. This is the first time I've actually read this very pretty edition, which I probably won't do again because all the gold is already coming off the spine just from me handling it. So this is going to go back into it as a display copy before I completely ruin it. But yeah, Jane Austen and Pride and Prejudice. It's my favourite book, enough said. And I hope my pile of books is not going to fall. And then finally, I listened to the audiobook of The Body in the Library by Agatha Christie. So this is another of my favourite Miss Marple stories, where there is a body found at Gossington Hall in the library, and no one knows how she got there. Cue Miss Marple sticking her nose in and investigating. So this is one of my favourites. It's one of my favourite in the TV version as well, with Geraldine McEwen, if I can say her name. Yeah, it's great. So that was the final audiobook that I listened to in April. Apparently I'm forgetting months now. So that was the 11 things I finished in April. Like I said, I spent the last 2 weeks reading Anna Karenina. I still have not finished Anna Karenina. I hope to finish Anna Karenina soon. I've just got to be disciplined about it. But yeah, so let me know if you've read any of those books and what you think of them, or if you have any questions about those books, ask them in the comments down below, and I will see you all again really, really soon. Bye!